Before we begin, a quick and important disclaimer. This content is presented strictly for educational and entertainment purposes. The information shared regarding real estate, legal proceedings, and financial outcomes is based on historical trends and case studies within the United States housing market. This video does not constitute professional legal, financial, or real estate advice. Real estate laws and divorce statutes vary significantly by state and jurisdiction. We strongly advise all viewers to conduct their own due diligence and consult with a licensed attorney, a certified financial planner, or a qualified real estate professional before making any decisions related to the sale of property during a marital dissolution. The closing table of a standard residential real estate transaction is usually a place of celebration, marked by champagne, handshakes, and the passing of keys to a hopeful new family. But there is a subsector of the American housing market where the closing table feels more like a demilitarized zone. Imagine a room where the two sellers refuse to look at one another, where a court-appointed sheriff might be standing in the hallway, and where the real estate agent isn't just a salesperson, but a high-stakes mediator operating in a legal minefield. Every 36 seconds, a divorce occurs in the United States, and in approximately 70% of those cases, a primary residence is involved. This creates a shadow economy within the real estate industry, worth hundreds of billions of dollars in annual transaction volume, managed by a specific breed of professional, the divorce real estate agent. Most people view real estate through the lens of luxury, staging, and curb appeal. However, through an anthropological lens, we see a much more complex social structure. We are looking at a tribe of professionals who have evolved to survive in an environment of extreme human conflict. These agents do not just sell houses, they navigate the collapse of a domestic institution. When a marriage ends, the family home transforms from a sanctuary into a liquid asset that must be surgically detached from two competing emotional and financial interests. This deep dive is going to pull back the curtain on the hidden rituals, the psychological power plays, and the specialized legal frameworks that define this niche. We are going to explore why a standard agent often fails in these scenarios, and how a specialized divorce expert protects the equity that took a lifetime to build. By the end of this masterclass, you will understand the mechanics of how billions of dollars in property are moved under the most stressful conditions imaginable, and you will see the American dream from a perspective that few ever dare to acknowledge. To understand the anthropology of this role, we must first look at the historical trends of the American household. For decades, the home was the primary vehicle for middle-class wealth. It was the nest egg. But when that nest egg is cracked by a legal separation, the home becomes a liability. In the past, the standard approach was for one spouse to keep the house while the other moved out. But as housing prices have outpaced wage growth, the buyout has become statistically less common. Today, more couples are forced to sell the family home simply because neither individual can afford the mortgage, taxes, and maintenance on a single income. This has created a massive influx of distressed emotional inventory into the U.S. market. The divorce real estate agent operates at the intersection of three distinct cultures: the legal system, the financial sector, and the emotional reality of family trauma. From a step-by-step perspective, the involvement of this agent often begins long before a sign is placed in the yard. In many case studies, the agent is actually appointed by a judge through a court order because the husband and wife cannot agree on which professional to trust. Think about the social dynamics at play here. In a normal transaction, the agent is a chosen advocate. In a divorce transaction, the agent is often a forced neutral party. This shift in the power dynamic changes everything about how the business is conducted. The agent must adopt a communication protocol that is almost clinical. For example, a specialized divorce agent never speaks to one spouse without immediately documenting the conversation for the other. Every email is sent as a CC to both parties and often their respective attorneys. This is not just a best practice, it is a survival mechanism. In high-conflict cases, a simple phone call can be misconstrued as siding with one party, leading to a breakdown in the sale and potential legal subpoenas for the agent. This is the first rule of the anthropology of divorce real estate. Neutrality is the only currency that matters. If the agent loses the perception of neutrality, they lose control of the transaction, and the house remains stuck in a legal limbo that bleeds equity every single day through mounting legal fees and mortgage interest. Furthermore, we must look at the physical anthropology of the home itself during a divorce. Often, one spouse has already moved out while the other remains in the property. This creates a massive imbalance in the selling motivation. The spouse who has moved out usually wants a quick sale to stop paying for a house they don't live in. The spouse remaining in the home may have a subconscious or even conscious desire to delay the sale to maintain their living situation. In this environment, the real estate agent becomes a project manager of human behavior. Case studies show that sabotage is a frequent hurdle. This can range from the occupying spouse refusing to clean the house for showings, to more extreme measures like leaving a smelly meal in the oven or purposely being home during tours to make potential buyers feel uncomfortable. The divorce agent must develop a specialized toolkit to handle these behaviors. They don't just stage a home, they neutralize it. They work with locksmiths, professional cleaners, and sometimes even security personnel to ensure the property is ready for market. They understand that every day a house sits on the market during a divorce, the equity bleed increases. If a couple is paying $3,000 a month in a mortgage and another $5,000 a month in combined legal fees, a 3-month delay in selling the house represents $24,000 in lost wealth. The specialized agent's role is to act as a fiduciary guard, protecting that money from being consumed by the friction of the divorce process. Historically, we have seen a rise in professional designations like the Certified Divorce Real Estate Expert, CDRE. This indicates that the market has recognized this as a distinct field of study, much like forensic accounting or family law. These agents are trained to read court orders. They must know how to interpret a listing order or a sale order issued by a judge. They must understand the difference between joint tenancy and tenants in common, and how those legal definitions impact the distribution of proceeds at the end of the day. This series is designed to solve one of the most painful problems in the American real estate landscape: the destruction of wealth through conflict. Whether you are a professional looking to enter this niche, or a homeowner trying to understand why your property sale feels like a battleground, this deep dive provides the roadmap. We are going to look at the data behind why certain houses sell for 10% less during a divorce, and how to avoid that divorce discount. We will analyze the step-by-step process of handling uncooperative sellers and the tactical ways to manage the three-way relationship between the agent and the opposing attorneys. This is not just about real estate. It is about the anthropology of the American family in transition and the professionals who hold the financial pieces together when the social structure falls apart. Prepare yourselves, because we are going deep into the mechanics of the most difficult transactions in the world. To understand why a standard agent often fails in these high-stakes scenarios, we must examine the specific psychological and legal architecture that a professional divorce real estate agent builds before the property even hits the market. In 2026, the American housing market is characterized by a locked-in effect, where many couples are holding on to mortgages with interest rates significantly lower than current market averages. This financial reality adds a layer of desperation to the anthropology of the transaction. For a couple like David and Elena in a high-growth suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina, the family home isn't just a place of memories. It is a fortress of 3% interest rate debt that is about to be liquidated into a 7% world. When a standard real estate agent, perhaps a family friend or someone the couple used 5 years ago, enters this environment, they typically attempt to use traditional sales psychology. They speak about curb appeal and finding the right family. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of the social contract currently in place. From an anthropological perspective, David and Elena are no longer a unit. They are two competing economic entities with a shared, depreciating asset that is currently tethered to a legal case number. Historical trends show that when an agent attempts to treat a divorce sale like a traditional sale, the risk of a failed listing increases by over 40%. This happens because the agent lacks the neutrality framework required to navigate the symmetry of information that both spouses demand. The first step in the masterclass of divorce real estate is the implementation of the neutrality protocol. Unlike a standard listing where the agent is a cheerleader for the sellers, the divorce expert acts more like a court reporter. In 2026, digital transparency is the only way to maintain this neutrality. The agent begins by establishing a tri-party communication channel. Every single text message, email, and phone summary is sent to David, Elena, and their respective legal counsel simultaneously. This prevents the he said, she said dynamic that often leads to motions being filed in family court. Imagine if David calls the agent to complain that the house is too messy for a showing. In a traditional setting, the agent might try to fix it quietly. In a divorce setting, that private conversation is a breach of trust. The specialized agent documents the concern and sends it to the group thread, ensuring that both parties are aware of the obstacle to the sale. This is not just about communication. It is about building a forensic trail that can be presented to a judge if one party is accused of sabotaging the sale. Step 2 involves the intake ritual. A professional divorce real estate agent never conducts a joint listing appointment. Instead, they perform 2 separate, highly detailed consultations. In session 1, the agent meets with David. They aren't just looking at the kitchen counters. They are looking for title issues and deferred maintenance. David might reveal that he took out a secret home equity line of credit, or that the roof has been leaking for a year. In session 2, the agent meets with Elena. She might reveal that she has no intention of moving out until the court forces her to. By conducting these meetings separately, the agent gathers the hidden data of the divorce. This allows the agent to construct a listing agreement addendum. This is a specialized legal document used in the US that outlines exactly who will sign the papers, how the home will be cleaned, who pays for the utilities during the listing period, and what the minimum acceptable offer will be. Historical trends in 2026 show that listings with a pre-signed addendum regarding conduct and maintenance are 60% more likely to close on time compared to those without one. We also have to consider the valuation war. In a standard sale, the goal is to get the highest price possible. In a divorce, the value of the home is often weaponized. If Elena wants to buy out David's half of the equity, she has a financial incentive to see the house valued as low as possible. Conversely, David wants the highest valuation possible to maximize his payout. This is where the anthropology of the agent shifts into the role of a forensic valuator. Instead of a simple comparative market analysis, the agent provides a market reality report. This report includes not just sold prices, but cost to cure estimates for every repair needed, a liquidity discount based on the speed required by the court, and an analysis of current absorption rates in the local zip code. By using a data-driven approach, the agent removes the emotional anchoring that both parties use to try and manipulate the legal settlement. Imagine a case study in Austin, Texas, involving a couple we will call Mark and Sarah. They owned a modern home valued at $1.2 million. Mark was a high-earning tech executive who wanted a quick exit. Sarah was a stay-at-home parent who felt the home was her only remaining security. Mark hired a top producer agent who didn't understand divorce dynamics. The agent took Mark's side, pushed for a low price for a quick sale, and Sarah responded by locking the door. She refused to allow showings, ignored the agent's calls, and eventually filed a restraining order against the agent for harassment. The house sat for 6 months, the market shifted, and the couple eventually lost $150,000 in potential equity because of the divorce discount that buyers apply to houses that look neglected or stagnant on the MLS. A specialized divorce agent would have recognized Sarah's fear of displacement and negotiated a possession agreement as part of the listing contract, giving her the certainty she needed to cooperate with the sale. The specialized agent also understands the anthropology of the showing. When a buyer walks into a divorce house, they can smell the conflict. It's in the half-empty closets, the missing family photos, and the general aura of tension. In 2026, buyers are more savvy than ever. They look for these signs to justify a lowball offer. The divorce agent's job is to neutralize the environment. This goes beyond staging. It involves depersonalization to the extreme. This means removing all evidence of the dispute. The agent might even hire a third-party property manager to oversee the home's condition so that neither spouse feels the other is winning by controlling how the house looks. Furthermore, we must look at the legal shielding the agent provides. In many U.S. jurisdictions, the agent can be appointed as a special master or a court-appointed expert under specific state rules, such as Rule 706 of the Federal Rules of Evidence or similar state-level statutes. This gives the agent a layer of quasi-judicial immunity and the authority to make decisions on behalf of the sale rather than the sellers. If the couple cannot agree on a carpet color to make the house more sellable, the court-appointed agent has the power to make that executive decision. This removes the stalemate that kills so many transactions. As we look toward the next phase of this deep dive, we have to ask, what happens when the perfect offer finally arrives? In a normal world, people celebrate. In a divorce, the offer is the start of the final battle. Does the husband want to accept it to get his cash while the wife wants to reject it out of spite? Does the contingency on the buyer's house sale create a new legal hurdle for the divorce attorneys? And most importantly, how does the agent handle the closing table when the two parties cannot be in the same room without a physical altercation? We are moving from the architecture of the listing into the tactical warfare of the negotiation and closing phase. In the next part, we will break down the double-blind negotiation strategy and how agents use stipulated orders to ensure that not a single penny of equity is lost to the attorneys, while the sellers fight over who gets to keep the refrigerator. The next level of this masterclass will reveal why the final 30 days of a divorce sale are the most dangerous for your financial future. The arrival of a formal purchase agreement should be the light at the end of the tunnel, but in the anthropology of a divorce sale, it is often the start of a high-pressure psychological standoff. Imagine if a buyer submits an offer for $850,000 on a home in the suburbs of Denver. In a standard transaction, the owners would look at their net sheet, discuss the merits of the offer, and decide together. But for a couple like Michael and Jennifer in 2026, this offer is a catalyst for a new power struggle. Michael, who moved into a cramped apartment 6 months ago, is desperate for his half of the equity to put a down payment on a new place. Jennifer, who is still living in the family home with the children, views the offer not as a financial opportunity, but as the final eviction notice from her old life. The professional divorce real estate agent utilizes a double-blind negotiation strategy to manage this friction. In this model, the agent does not present the offer to both parties in the same room or even on the same Zoom call. Instead, they provide a simultaneous identical data packet to both spouses and their respective attorneys. This packet includes more than just the price. It features a specific net sheet tailored to each individual. If there is a court order stating that Michael must pay back a $20,000 loan to his parents from the house proceeds, or if Jennifer is entitled to a larger share of the equity to offset Michael's retirement account, the agent builds these calculations directly into the presentation. By showing each spouse exactly how many dollars will hit their specific bank account at closing, the agent shifts the conversation from emotional loss to financial reality. Historical trends in 2026 suggest that when spouses see their exit number in black and white, the likelihood of a spite-based rejection decreases. However, the agent must be prepared for the veto power play. This is a scenario where one spouse refuses to sign a perfectly valid, over-asking price offer simply to punish the other party for wanting the divorce. From an anthropological perspective, this is a form of social suicide within the transaction. To counter this, the specialized agent works with the attorneys to have a stipulated listing order already in place. This legal document often contains a provision that if an offer comes in within 95% of the listing price with standard terms, and one spouse refuses to sign, the other spouse or the agent can petition the court for an immediate eleaser appointment. An eleaser is a person appointed by the court to sign legal documents on behalf of a non-compliant party. Just the mention of an eleaser often breaks the stalemate, as the uncooperative spouse realizes they are about to lose their remaining leverage and potentially face a contempt of court charge. Let's look at a case study involving the refrigerator war. In a high-conflict divorce in Chicago, Robert and Linda agreed on the sale price of their $1.2 million condo, but the entire deal nearly collapsed over a $5,000 smart refrigerator. Linda wanted to take it to her new townhouse. Robert insisted it was a fixture that must stay with the home to satisfy the buyer's contract. In a normal sale, the agent might suggest a credit. In this divorce, neither party would budge. They spent 3 weeks arguing through their attorneys, at a combined billing rate of $900 per hour. By the time they reached an agreement, they had spent more on legal fees than the refrigerator was worth 4 times over. The specialized divorce agent anticipates this appliance trap. Step by step, they perform a personal property audit before the house even hits the market. They create a spreadsheet of every disputed item: the washer, the dryer, the custom chandeliers, even the backyard play structure. They force the couple to decide on these items during the calm of the listing period, rather than the storm of the contract period. If the parties cannot agree, the agent suggests a binding arbitration clause specifically for the personal property, keeping the real estate transaction insulated from the battle over the furniture. As the deal moves into the inspection phase, a new set of risks emerges. This is the period known as the sabotage window. In 2026, buyers are hypersensitive to maintenance red flags. Imagine if the buyer's inspector finds a minor crack in the heat exchanger of the furnace. In a standard sale, the sellers would split the $3,000 repair cost and move on. In a divorce, the spouse living in the house might refuse to let the repairman in, or the spouse who moved out might refuse to contribute a single cent to the repair, hoping the deal falls through so they can start over with a different agent or a higher price later. The professional agent mitigates this by utilizing a maintenance escrow. During the initial listing, they often advise the attorneys to set aside a small portion of existing liquid assets into a neutral trust account specifically for contractual repairs. This allows the agent to authorize necessary repairs up to a certain dollar amount without needing a new signature from two warring parties for every $200 plumbing leak. This pre-authorized autonomy is what separates a successful divorce sale from a listing that expires after 4 months of gridlock. Finally, we must address the closing table logistics. In the anthropology of divorce real estate, the closing table is not a communal space. It is a series of split signings. The agent coordinates with the title company or escrow officer to ensure that Michael and Jennifer never cross paths. Michael might sign at 9 a.m. in the title office, while Jennifer signs at 2 p.m. at a mobile notary's office across town. The agent must also ensure that the closing disclosure CD is reviewed with surgical precision. They are looking for hidden liens or last-minute attorney liens that could halt the distribution of funds. In 2026, the complexity of these distributions has increased. With the rise of digital assets and complex tax implications, the agent often has to work with a divorce mortgage planner to ensure that the spouse who is selling their share of the home can actually qualify for a new loan based on the support income, or alimony, they are about to receive. If the closing is delayed by even 24 hours, it can trigger a domino effect that leaves one spouse homeless because their next lease or purchase was contingent on the funds from the family home. The potential outcomes of the final 30 days are binary. Either the equity is preserved and distributed according to the law, or it is cannibalized by delays, litigation, and buyer withdrawals. The agent's role is to be the buffer that absorbs the emotional shocks so the financial machinery can continue to turn. But what happens after the papers are signed? What happens when the money is in the bank but the taxman comes knocking? And more importantly, how does a divorce agent handle the pre-foreclosure nightmare where there is no equity left to fight over, and the couple must navigate a short sale while their relationship is in ashes? We are entering the most technical and high-stakes portion of our masterclass. In the next part, we will dive into the tax implications of the Section 121 exclusion, and how a simple mistake in the timing of your divorce decree can cost you up to $250,000 in unnecessary capital gains taxes. We will also explore the short sale paradox, and how agents manage a transaction where the sellers owe more than the house is worth, yet still find a way to argue over who is responsible for the deficit. The next part will change the way you look at the final decree forever. The intersection of family law and the Internal Revenue Code is where many American homeowners see their hard-earned equity vanish, not because of the market, but because of a calendar. In the anthropology of the divorce real estate agent, the most dangerous document isn't a bad inspection report. It is the final decree of divorce signed before the house is sold. In 2026, the financial stakes have reached a boiling point. With property values in many U.S. metropolitan areas having appreciated significantly over the last 5 years, the capital gains trap has become a primary concern for specialized agents. Imagine a couple in 2026, whom we will call Marcus and Sarah, living in a high-demand neighborhood in Seattle. They purchased their home in 2018 for $500,000. By 2026, the market value has climbed to $1.1 million. That is a $600,000 gain. Under Section 121 of the Internal Revenue Code, a married couple filing a joint return can exclude up to $500,000 of gain from the sale of their primary residence, provided they meet the ownership and use tests. For Marcus and Sarah, selling while married means they would only pay taxes on $100,000 of that gain. However, the anthropology of conflict often pushes couples to rush the legal dissolution of their marriage. If Marcus and Sarah sign their final decree in December of 2026 and the house does not sell until February of 2027, they are no longer a married unit in the eyes of the IRS for that tax year. They are now two single individuals. Each is entitled to a $250,000 exclusion. On the surface, this seems fine, $250,000 plus $250,000 equals $500,000. But the anthropology of divorce often involves one spouse moving out. If Marcus moved out 3 years ago when the separation began, he may no longer meet the use test, which requires residing in the home for 2 out of the last 5 years. Suddenly, Marcus's half of the $600,000 gain, $300,000, is only offset by a $250,000 exclusion if he is lucky, or potentially zero exclusion if he has been out of the house too long. Historical trends show that this simple timing error can result in a tax bill of $15,000 to $50,000 that could have been completely avoided. A professional divorce real estate agent acts as a tactical advisor here, working with the couple's CPA to analyze the tax basis and the projected net. They often suggest a delayed decree or a specific tax indemnification clause in the settlement. Step by step, the agent must ensure that the exclusive use and possession granted to the in-spouse is phrased correctly in the court order. According to historical tax case studies, if the decree states that the outspouse is out of the home pursuant to a divorce or separation instrument, the outspouse can often credit the in-spouse time toward their own use requirement. This is the level of forensic detail required in 2026 to protect equity from being liquidated by the government rather than the sellers. But what happens when the math goes the other direction? This leads us to the short sale paradox. In certain pockets of the United States in 2026, perhaps where local economies have shifted or where homeowners over-leveraged during the high-interest rate environment of 2024 and 2025, we see couples who owe more than the house is worth. Imagine James and Chloe, a couple in a cooling suburban market outside of Phoenix. They bought at the peak with a low down payment and later took out a home equity line of credit to consolidate credit card debt. Now they are divorcing and the house is worth $550,000, but their total debt is $600,000. In a standard anthropology of real estate, a short sale is a somber, cooperative effort to minimize damage to credit. In a divorce, a short sale becomes a theater of blame allocation. James might argue that the debt is Chloe's fault because of her spending. Chloe might argue that James insisted on the house they couldn't afford. The divorce agent must now navigate a three-way negotiation involving the husband, the wife, and the lender's loss mitigation department. The agent's role shifts from a salesperson to a debt negotiator. The agent must explain the insolvency exception to the couple. When a lender forgives debt in a short sale, the IRS typically views that forgiven debt as taxable income. If the bank forgives $50,000, James and Chloe could receive a 1099-C form, treating that $50,000 as if they earned it in salary. In the anthropology of a high-conflict divorce, neither party wants to be responsible for the tax on phantom income. The professional agent guides them toward a short sale addendum in their divorce decree, which specifies how any potential tax liability or deficiency judgment will be split. In 2026, the deficiency judgment is a looming shadow. Some states in the U.S. allow lenders to pursue the borrowers for the remaining $50,000 even after the house is sold. The divorce agent must coordinate with the legal teams to ensure the short sale approval letter from the bank includes a waiver of deficiency. If the agent fails to secure this, the divorce isn't really over when the house sells. The bank could follow James and Chloe for years, garnishing wages and attaching liens to their future individual assets. The complexity increases when we look at the anthropology of strategic default. Sometimes one spouse will purposely stop making mortgage payments to force the other spouse out of the house or to ruin their credit out of spite. The specialized agent has to monitor the lease pendens filings and work with the court to appoint a receiver if necessary to save the remaining equity. This is a financial triage situation where every month of missed payments adds late fees, legal costs, and default interest rates that can reach 18%. Step by step, the agent must document the cost of delay. They present a report to the attorney showing that for every 30 days the couple fights over who pays the $3,000 mortgage, they are actually losing $4,500 in equity due to penalties. By framing the conflict as a loss of capital, the agent uses the one thing both spouses usually still value, their own future financial survival, to force a compromise. This deep dive into the tax and debt mechanics of 2026 reveals that the home is no longer just a building. It is a complex financial instrument that requires a specialized operator. We have explored how a calendar date can cost $50,000 in taxes, and how a $50,000 debt can trigger a decade of legal pursuit. But there is another path that many couples try to take to avoid the public sale altogether. Many spouses in 2026 are looking at the equity buyout. On paper it sounds simple: one person stays, one person leaves, and money changes hands. But in a world of 7% mortgage rates and strict debt-to-income ratios, the buyout is often a financial mirage that lures couples into a different kind of trap. What happens when the spouse who wants to stay can't qualify for the new loan? What happens to the low interest rate they currently share? We are moving into one of the most requested topics of this masterclass: the mortgage assumption and the ALT lien. In the next part, we will break down why 90% of buyout attempts fail in the final hour, and the secret mechanism specialized agents use to help one spouse keep the house without destroying the other spouse's ability to ever buy again. The next section will explain the internal refinance and the legal documents that most family law attorneys don't even know exist. The financial mirage of the equity buyout is where the anthropology of the divorce real estate agent shifts from property management to deep tissue financial surgery. In the 2026 housing market, we are seeing a massive collision between the desire for domestic stability and the brutal reality of current interest rates. Most couples believe that if one person wants to keep the home, they simply pay the other person half of the equity and move on. However, in the United States, the mechanics of a mortgage note make this almost impossible without a highly specialized set of tools. We have to look at the case of Thomas and Sophia in Austin, Texas. They have a mortgage at 3.125%, a rate they secured back in 2021. The home is now worth $900,000, and they owe $500,000. There is $400,000 in equity at stake. Sophia wants to stay in the home for the sake of the children's school district, and Thomas is willing to let her, provided he gets his $200,000 share of the equity to buy a new property. In a standard scenario, Sophia would apply for a cash-out refinance. But in 2026, with market rates hovering around 6.8%, a cash-out refinance would nearly triple her monthly interest payment. Furthermore, most lenders in the United States limit cash-out refinances to 80% of the home's value. In this case, 80% of $900,000 is $720,000. If she owes $500,000 and needs to pay Thomas $200,000, she is already at $700,000 before closing costs. She is right on the edge of the limit, and the higher interest rate makes her debt-to-income ratio explode, meaning she likely won't qualify on her single income. This is where the anthropology of the divorce expert introduces the OWLT lien. An OWLT lien is a specialized legal instrument, most notably used in states like Texas but available in various forms across the U.S., that allows the equity in a home to be treated as a purchase money debt rather than a cash-out. From an anthropological perspective, the law views the home as a whole pie that is being divided. If Sophia purchases Thomas's half of the pie, the transaction can be structured as a rate and term refinance. This is a critical distinction in 2026. Historically, rate and term refinances allow for a higher loan-to-value ratio, up to 95% in some cases, and come with significantly lower interest rates than a cash-out loan. By using an OWLT lien, the divorce real estate agent coordinates with the family law attorney to ensure the final decree of divorce specifically creates this lien. This allows Sophia to access the $200,000 for Thomas, while potentially qualifying for a loan that would have been denied under standard banking protocols. But we must address the mortgage assumption myth that is currently circulating in 2026. Many couples hear that they can simply assume the existing 3% mortgage and remove the other spouse's name. While some FHA, VA, and USDA loans are technically assumable, the anthropology of the lender-servicer makes this a bureaucratic nightmare. Most servicers in the U.S. are not incentivized to process assumptions because they don't make money on them. Historical trends show that assumptions can take 6 to 12 months to process, during which time the divorce remains open and the equity remains trapped. A specialized divorce agent knows that relying on an assumption without a backup sale date in the court order is a recipe for disaster. If the bank eventually denies the assumption after 9 months of waiting, the couple has lost nearly a year of market time and potential equity. The most dangerous ritual in this anthropology is the quitclaim deed trap. Imagine if Thomas, in his rush to be done with the marriage, simply signs a quitclaim deed, handing his ownership over to Sophia. He believes he is now free of the house. But the anthropology of the American credit system does not care about a quitclaim deed. A quitclaim deed removes Thomas from the title, but it does not remove him from the mortgage note. In the eyes of the bank, Thomas is still 100% liable for the $500,000 debt. If Sophia misses a payment in 2027, Thomas's credit score will plummet. Even worse, when Thomas goes to buy his own home, the lender will see that $500,000 debt on his credit report and count the entire monthly payment against his debt-to-income ratio, likely preventing him from ever qualifying for a new loan. A professional divorce real estate agent prevents this by insisting on a release of liability or a refinance requirement as a condition of the title transfer. Step by step, the agent must verify the conditional approval of the new loan before the quitclaim is ever recorded. They understand that in 2026, joint credit is a chain that binds two people together long after the emotional bond has shattered. The agent's role is to ensure that the outspouse is not just legally removed from the deed, but financially liberated from the debt. Furthermore, we must look at the anthropology of the QDRO, Qualified Domestic Relations Order, as it relates to real estate. In 2026, many couples are using their retirement accounts to offset house equity. For example, if Thomas has $200,000 more in his 401k than Sophia, and Sophia has $200,000 in home equity, they might agree to a straight swap. Sophia keeps the house and Thomas keeps his retirement. This seems clean, but the specialized agent points out the liquidity disparity. Home equity is frozen capital. You cannot buy groceries with it, and it costs 6 to 10% to liquidate it through a sale. Retirement funds are also restricted by age and tax penalties. The agent provides a net equity analysis that factors in the disposition costs of the home. They argue that Sophia shouldn't trade $200,000 of pre-tax retirement for $200,000 of post-cost home equity. This is the level of depth required to ensure that the social structure of the post-divorce family is actually sustainable. Imagine a scenario where the staying spouse cannot qualify for the buyout, and the leaving spouse cannot wait for a sale. This leads to the delayed sale, or deferred possession agreement. This is common in 2026 for families with high school seniors. The couple agrees to keep the house for 2 more years until the child graduates. This is an anthropological no man's land. Who pays for a broken water heater in 2027? Who gets the tax deduction for the mortgage interest? What happens if one spouse gets remarried and moves their new partner into the joint house? The divorce real estate agent must act as a governance consultant, drafting a property management agreement that is incorporated into the divorce decree. This agreement must be as detailed as a commercial lease, covering everything from capital expenditures to right of first refusal. As we move deeper into this masterclass, we have to look at the next massive hurdle. What happens when the house is finally sold or the buyout is complete, and the spouses go to buy their next homes? In 2026, the contingency is king. If you are trying to buy a new house while your name is still on the old house's mortgage, you are entering a world of financial gridlock. How do you get a down payment out of a house you haven't sold yet? How do you convince a seller to accept your offer when your support income hasn't been paid for the required 6 months to count as qualified income for a loan? The next part of this series will expose the contingency trap and the 6-month rule that stops most divorced individuals from buying their next home. We will dive into the anthropology of bridge loans and equity advancing in the 2026 market. We are about to look at the new life phase of the transaction and why the first house you buy after a divorce is often the hardest one you will ever get. The battle doesn't end at the closing table of the family home. For many, the real struggle to find a new sanctuary is just beginning. The transition from the marital home to a new individual residence is the phase where the anthropology of the divorce real estate agent moves into the territory of financial reconstruction. In the United States housing market of 2026, the barriers to entry for a newly single individual are historically high. We are no longer in an era where a simple credit score and a decent salary ensure a mortgage. For a person emerging from a divorce, the financial profile is often a fractured mosaic of support payments, contingent liabilities, and unliquidated equity. This is the moment where the 6-month rule becomes the primary antagonist in the story of the post-divorce buyer. Imagine a character named Alicia in Nashville, Tennessee. It is June 2026, and the divorce decree was just signed. Alicia was awarded $4,000 a month in child support and alimony. On paper, her income looks sufficient to qualify for a modest $450,000 townhouse in a safe school district. She finds the perfect property and submits an offer. But when her file hits the desk of an underwriter for a conventional Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan, the entire process grinds to a halt. In the anthropology of American lending, support income is viewed with extreme skepticism. Historical trends and lending guidelines dictate that for alimony or child support to be considered qualified income, the recipient must demonstrate a consistent 6-month history of receiving those payments in full and on time. Alicia is caught in a temporal trap. She cannot buy a house today because she hasn't been divorced long enough to prove her income is stable, even though the court has mandated it. Furthermore, she must prove that the income will continue for at least 3 years. If her oldest child is 15, The child support might drop off in 3 years, potentially disqualifying her from the loan she needs right now. The professional divorce real estate agent, working in tandem with a specialized mortgage planner, must anticipate this hurdle months before the divorce is even final. They often suggest a strategy where the temporary support payments are structured and documented through the court system early in the separation process, effectively starting the 6-month clock long before the final decree is stamped. This is a step-by-step chess move that separates a successful transition from a period of forced, expensive renting. Beyond the income hurdle lies the contingency trap. In the competitive 2026 market, sellers are looking for the path of least resistance. When Alicia submits an offer that is contingent on the sale of her marital home, she is essentially telling the seller that her ability to buy their house is dependent on her ex-husband's cooperation, the performance of another real estate agent, and the vagaries of a second appraisal. From the perspective of a seller's agent, a divorce contingent offer is a high-risk proposition. Historical case studies show that in a multi-offer situation, a contingency involving a divorce sale is often discarded immediately, even if the offer price is higher. To solve this, the divorce real estate agent utilizes the anthropology of the bridge loan or the equity advance. In 2026, we have seen a rise in fintech products specifically designed for this transition. These tools allow Alicia to tap into the equity of the marital home before it is sold. The lender provides a short-term loan that covers the down payment on the new house, secured by the projected proceeds of the old one. This allows Alicia to submit a non-contingent offer, making her as competitive as any other buyer in the Nashville market. However, the agent must be forensic in their analysis of the net proceeds. If the agent overestimates the sale price of the marital home by even 5%, Alicia could find herself in a position where the bridge loan consumes all of her remaining cash, leaving her with a new house she cannot afford to furnish or maintain. We must also examine the psychology of the new purchase. In the anthropology of divorce, the first home purchased after a split is rarely about investment. It is about reclaiming an identity. This emotional state makes buyers vulnerable to overpaying or ignoring structural red flags. Alicia might be so desperate to provide a sense of normalcy for her children that she ignores a foundation issue or a dated HVAC system that will cost $15,000 to replace in 2027. The specialized agent acts as the rational external brain. They force the buyer to look at the property through the lens of a 5-year exit strategy. They remind the buyer that this is a bridge property, a place to heal and stabilize, rather than the forever home that led to the current financial complexity. Then there is the issue of joint debt and the credit shadow. Even if Alicia is not responsible for her ex-husband's car loan according to the divorce decree, if that loan is still in both of their names, it is a lead weight on her debt-to-income ratio. In the United States, a court order does not override a contract with a private lender. If the car loan has a $700 monthly payment, the mortgage underwriter will subtract that $700 from Alicia's borrowing power, unless the loan is refinanced or paid off entirely. The divorce agent must guide the client through a liability decoupling phase. This involves step-by-step verification that every joint account is closed and every joint debt is either satisfied from the house proceeds or legally assumed by one party through a formal refinance with the original creditor. Imagine a scenario where the marital home sale is delayed because of a title cloud. Perhaps an old contractor lien from a 2022 kitchen remodel was never cleared. In a standard sale, this is a minor annoyance. In a divorce sale, it can be the spark that ignites a new round of litigation. Alicia cannot buy her new home because the title company won't release the funds from the old one. The agent must be proactive, running a preliminary title report the moment the listing is signed. They don't wait for a buyer to find the problem, they find it themselves. This preemptive forensics is the hallmark of the top-tier divorce real estate professional. In 2026, we are also seeing a trend of co-buying post-divorce. Some individuals, unable to qualify for a loan on their own due to the high interest rates and the 6-month rule, are purchasing homes with a parent or a new partner. This creates a new anthropological layer, the succession conflict. The agent must now navigate the legalities of joint tenancy with right of survivorship versus tenants in common. They must ensure that the new purchase doesn't accidentally create a scenario where the ex-spouse could claim an interest in the new property through a commingling of assets argument in a future court hearing. As we look at Alicia finally getting the keys to her new townhouse, the new life phase seems complete. But for the agent, the most complex anthropological study is often the one they leave behind, the unsellable house. What happens when the marital home is so fraught with conflict, so burdened by debt, or so neglected during the separation that no traditional buyer will touch it? What happens when the court orders a sale, but the market says no? We are moving into the dark side of the anthropology. In the next part, we will explore the world of the professional receiver and the partition action. We will look at what happens when a judge loses patience and appoints a third party to seize control of the home, kick the residents out, and sell the property on the courthouse steps. This is the nuclear option of divorce real estate, and in 2026, it is becoming a more frequent reality for those who cannot find a way to cooperate. We will break down the step-by-step process of how a partition action works and why it is the single most expensive way to sell a piece of American real estate. When the collaborative structures of a marriage dissolve into absolute gridlock, the American legal system provides a blunt force instrument known as the partition action. In the anthropology of real estate, this is the equivalent of a scorched earth policy. It is the moment where the court stops asking for cooperation and starts demanding liquidation. If you are a homeowner in 2026, understanding the mechanics of a partition is vital, because historical trends show that as interest rates remain volatile and emotional tensions high, more judges are resorting to this nuclear option to clear their dockets. A partition action is a lawsuit filed by one co-owner against another to force the division or sale of a property. Since you cannot physically saw a suburban split level in half, the court orders a partition by sale. This is not a friendly listing. It is a forced divestment. The process begins with a summons and complaint, transforming the spouses from partners into a plaintiff and a defendant. Once the court determines that the property cannot be equitably divided, it issues an interlocutory judgment for sale. This is the legal trigger that strips the homeowners of their decision-making power and hands the keys to a third-party stranger, the professional receiver or a court-appointed referee. The anthropology of the receiver is fascinating because they represent the cold, mechanical side of the law. Imagine a character named Greg in Atlanta, Georgia. Greg has refused to sign the listing agreement for 18 months, believing that if he stays in the house, he can prevent the divorce from becoming real. His spouse, Monica, finally files for partition. The judge, losing patience with Greg's stalling tactics, appoints a receiver. In 2026, these receivers are often specialized attorneys or retired judges who charge between $300 and $600 per hour. Their mandate is simple: sell the asset for the best possible price in the shortest amount of time. They do not care about Greg's sentimental attachment to the backyard deck, or the fact that the market might be slightly better in 3 months. They have a court order to execute. The first step the receiver takes is often the most jarring for the occupants. They may arrive with a writ of assistance. In the U.S. legal framework, this allows the receiver to call upon the local sheriff to physically remove anyone obstructing the sale. Case studies in high-conflict zones like Fulton County show that these evictions are becoming a standardized part of the partition ritual. Once the house is vacant, the receiver has the authority to change the locks, hire cleaners, and even authorize repairs using the owner's remaining equity as a credit line. The owners have officially become spectators in the sale of their own greatest asset. Now let's look at the catastrophic financial math that makes this the most expensive way to sell a home. In a standard sale, you pay a real estate commission and some closing costs. In a partition sale, the equity is cannibalized by multiple layers of professional fees. First, there are the legal fees for the partition lawsuit itself. In 2026, a contested partition can easily rack up $25,000 to $50,000 in attorney billables before the house even hits the market. Next is the referee or receiver's fee, which can account for another 2 to 5% of the gross sale price. Then, there is the cost of the referee's report and the mandatory appraisals required by the court. But the real equity killer is the method of sale. Often, partition actions culminate in a public auction on the courthouse steps. From an anthropological perspective, these auctions are the antithesis of the lifestyle marketing used by professional real estate agents. There are no professional photos, no drone shots, and no open houses with the smell of freshly baked cookies. The house is sold as is, whereas often for cash-only bids. Historical data suggests that properties sold at a partition auction frequently fetch 20 to 30% less than their fair market value. For an $800,000 home in Atlanta, a Greg and Monica scenario could result in a $160,000 loss in sale price, plus $60,000 in combined legal and receiver fees. They are effectively paying a $220,000 penalty for their inability to agree on a listing agent. Even if the court allows a private sale through a traditional brokerage, the receiver still controls the process. They choose the agent, usually one they have a long-standing professional relationship with, rather than the one who might be the best fit for the neighborhood. The receiver signs the contract, approves the repairs, and decides which offer to accept. The homeowners lose the right to negotiate. If a buyer offers $750,000 on that $800,000 house, the receiver might accept it just to close the case, even if the husband or wife believes they could get more. In the eyes of the court, a closed case is more valuable than a marginal increase in equity. The step-by-step erosion of wealth doesn't end at the closing. Once the house is sold, the proceeds are held in a neutral trust account. Then begins the phase of accounting and contribution. This is where the anthropology of blame turns into a balance sheet. The court must decide how to split the remaining money. If Greg paid the mortgage alone for the last year, he might ask for a credit. If Monica can prove that Greg's refusal to move out caused a $50,000 decline in value due to neglect, she might ask for a surcharge against his share. In 2026, we see these accounting hearings lasting days, with forensic accountants charging thousands to argue over utility bills and lawn care receipts. This is the grim reality of the partition action. It is a process designed for finality, not for profit. It exists because the law prioritizes the right of an individual to liquidate their interest in a property over the other individual's desire to maintain the status quo. The professional divorce real estate agent's primary goal is often to act as a partition preventer. They use the threat of these costs as a tactical tool to force mediation. They show the warring spouses the partition math and ask, would you rather give $200,000 to a receiver and a group of attorneys, or would you rather give $10,000 in concessions to a buyer today and be done? In the anthropology of these transactions, the partition action represents a total breakdown of the domestic tribe. It is the state stepping in to perform a financial autopsy on a living asset. As we move into 2026, the complexity of these cases is only increasing with the rise of heirs property and multi-generational ownership issues that complicate the title even further. But even when the sale is forced and the gavel falls, the battle is not over. The IRS is still waiting in the wings, and the way a partition sale is structured can have devastating effects on your ability to claim the primary residence tax exclusion we discussed earlier. We have seen the absolute bottom of the divorce real estate world, the forced auction and the court-ordered eviction. But how do we avoid getting there in the first place? How do professionals value a home when the two owners live in two different realities? In the next part, we are going to dive into the anthropology of the appraisal and the battle of the experts. We will look at how two different qualified appraisers can look at the same four walls and come up with values that are $100,000 apart, and how the specialized agent uses market absorption data to bridge the gap before the judge reaches for the partition gavel. The next level of this masterclass is about the science of value in a world of emotional bias. The science of valuation in the context of a high-conflict divorce is less about mathematics and more about the anthropology of perception. In the United States housing market of 2026, the concept of fair market value has become a tactical battleground where two opposing parties attempt to bend reality to fit their financial needs. To a standard observer, a house is a collection of wood, stone, and square footage. But through the lens of a divorce real estate agent, that same house is a Rorschach test. For the spouse who wishes to remain in the property, every crack in the foundation and every dated appliance is a reason for the value to plummet. For the spouse who is leaving and expects a payout, that same property is a pristine jewel of appreciation that should command the highest possible price the market has ever seen. This divergence of reality creates what we call the battle of the experts. In 2026, we see a historical trend where couples in metropolitan areas like San Diego or Seattle are spending upwards of $10,000 just on competing appraisals before a single listing agreement is even drafted. Imagine a couple named Brian and Emily. They own a modern farmhouse-style home in a desirable suburb of Austin, Texas. Brian wants to keep the house to maintain a sense of stability for their two children. Emily is moving to a high-rise downtown and needs every cent of her equity to maintain her lifestyle. Brian hires an appraiser who specializes in distressed properties. This appraiser identifies that the HVAC system is 10 years old, the roof will need replacement in 3 years, and the recent increase in local inventory suggests a cooling market. He values the home at $1.1 million. Emily, sensing a lowball tactic, hires her own appraiser. This second expert focuses on the sales comparison approach, highlighting a similar home 3 blocks away that sold for $1.4 million just last month. She ignores the aging HVAC and focuses on the high-end quartz countertops, and the proximity to the new tech corridor. Now, the court is presented with a $300,000 gap. In the anthropology of divorce real estate, this gap is not just a number. It is a complete breakdown of trust that can stall a legal case for months. A professional divorce real estate agent enters this scenario not as an appraiser, but as a forensic market analyst. They understand that a standard comparative market analysis, or CMA, is often insufficient for court. Step by step, the agent must implement the jointly retained neutral appraiser protocol. This is a specific ritual where both attorneys agree on a single, highly vetted appraiser whose valuation will be considered binding for the purpose of the settlement. The agent's role is to act as the librarian of facts for this neutral party. They provide the appraiser with a comprehensive package that includes a list of all deferred maintenance, a record of capital improvements, and, crucially, the market absorption data for 2026. Market absorption data is the empirical tiebreaker. While an appraiser looks at what has happened in the past, the agent looks at what is happening right now. In 2026, the anthropology of the buyer has shifted. Higher interest rates have made buyers hypersensitive to emotional friction. The agent tracks how many days homes stay on the market when they are known to be part of a divorce. Historical trends show a phenomenon known as the divorce discount. When a house carries the social stigma of a forced sale, or when the staging is compromised because half the furniture has been removed by a departing spouse, the property often trades at a 3 to 7% discount compared to a traditional happy path sale. By presenting this data to the appraisers and the court, the agent brings the valuation back from the realm of fantasy into the reality of the 2026 transaction environment. We must also examine the anthropology of the date of value. In the United States legal system, the specific day the house is valued can change the outcome by tens of thousands of dollars. Is it the date the petition for divorce was filed? Is it the date of the trial? Or is it the date the house actually closes? In a volatile market, a 3-month delay in a court hearing can result in a significant shift in equity. The specialized agent monitors the local price indices with surgical precision. If the market is appreciating at 0.5% per month, a 6-month legal delay has created a 3% appreciation windfall. The agent must help the attorneys determine who is entitled to that windfall. If Brian has been paying 100% of the mortgage and taxes during those 6 months, he will argue that the appreciation belongs to him. If the court views the home as a community asset, Emily will claim her half. Imagine a scenario where the appraisal comes back at $1.25 million, right in the middle of the two extremes. Now we enter the most delicate phase of the valuation ritual, the cost to sell adjustment. In the anthropology of a buyout, the spouse who stays often argues that the value should be reduced by the 6% commission they would have to pay if they sold the house on the open market. They argue that it is unfair for them to pay the other spouse 50% of the gross value when they will eventually bear 100% of the selling costs years later. The spouse who is leaving argues that since no sale is occurring today, no commission should be deducted. This is a point of intense legal debate in 2026, and the professional agent provides the hypothetical net sheet that allows the judge to see the long-term financial impact of either decision. Furthermore, we must look at the hidden anthropology of the title report. Once the value is settled, everyone assumes the path is clear. But in 2026, we are seeing a massive increase in shadow liens. These are debts that are not attached to the mortgage but are attached to the individuals. Imagine Brian has a secret business debt or a tax lien that Emily was unaware of. The moment the house is prepared for sale or a buyout, the title search reveals these encumbrances. A $50,000 judgment against one spouse can effectively wipe out the equity the other spouse was counting on for their next down payment. The specialized agent runs a preliminary title search at the very beginning of the process, identifying these equity eaters before they can sabotage the settlement. This deep dive into valuation reveals that the price of a home in a divorce is a social construct, negotiated through a series of legal and professional rituals. The professional agent is the master of these rituals, using data to ground the emotional volatility of the sellers. They understand that a house is worth exactly what a buyer will pay, but in a divorce it is also worth exactly what a judge says it is worth. The intersection of those two numbers is where the agent does their most important work. But what happens when the valuation is agreed upon, the title is clear, and the house is finally ready to meet the public? This is where the anthropology of the secret comes into play. How does an agent market a home without telling the world it is a divorce sale? How do they protect the privacy of the family while still creating the competitive tension needed to get a top market price? And most importantly, how do they handle the vulture buyers who spend their lives scouring the public records for divorce filings, waiting to swoop in with lowball offers the moment a family is at its weakest? We are moving into the tactical phase of the masterclass. In the next part, we will explore the anthropology of the stealth listing. We will look at the specific marketing techniques used to shield a divorce sale from the predatory market, and how to handle the psychological warfare of the buyer's inspection when the sellers are looking for any excuse to blame each other for the home's defects. The next part is about the art of the sale when the world is watching for a crack in the armor. In the anthropology of the American housing market, the transition from a private family dispute to a public real estate listing is the moment of maximum vulnerability. In the high interest rate environment of 2026, buyers are not just looking for square footage, they are looking for leverage. When a house hits the multiple listing service MLS, it becomes a data point in a vast digital ocean where predatory AI tools scan public records to link addresses with recent divorce filings. This creates a class of professional vultures who specifically target properties in distress. The divorce real estate agent's first mission is to build a digital and social firewall around the listing to preserve the seller's equity. This is the art of the stealth listing. Imagine a couple in 2026, Kevin and Lisa, who are selling a $1.8 million home in a premier neighborhood in Raleigh, North Carolina. Kevin is a software executive, and Lisa is a specialized surgeon. Their divorce is high asset and high tension. In a standard sale, an agent might use aggressive marketing, including phrases like motivated sellers or bring all offers. In the anthropology of divorce, those words are blood in the water. To a buyer in 2026, motivated means distressed, and distressed means they will take 20% less than the asking price because they can't stand to be in the same room together for another 30 days. The professional agent begins by implementing a strict information silo. Step by step, the agent scrubs the listing of any psychological cues that suggest a split. This means no photos of half-empty master closets, no missing family portraits that leave pale rectangles on the walls, and certainly no mention of a quick closing preferred. In 2026, many specialized agents use a staged harmony approach. They might actually bring in professional furniture to fill the gaps left by a spouse who has already moved out, creating the illusion of a stable, cohesive household. They know that a buyer who senses peace will offer more than a buyer who senses a fire sale. However, the firewall must also extend to the human element. The agent acts as the exclusive gatekeeper for all inquiries. When a buyer's agent calls to ask, "Why are they moving?" a standard agent might slip up and mention a change in family circumstances. A specialized divorce agent is trained to provide a neutral, non-revealing narrative, such as, "They have outgrown the space and are looking for a new chapter." Historical trends show that maintaining this narrative can protect up to 5% of the home's total value. On a $1.8 million home, that is a $90,000 difference in the final walkaway equity for Kevin and Lisa. But the real tactical warfare begins during the buyer's inspection phase. In the anthropology of a divorce sale, the inspection report is rarely just about the roof or the plumbing. It is a proxy war between the spouses. Imagine the inspector finds a small leak in the crawl space and estimates the repair at $3,500. In a normal marriage, Kevin and Lisa would discuss it and agree to a credit. In a 2026 divorce, this $3,500 repair becomes a tool for retributive accounting. Kevin might argue that Lisa should pay for the repair out of her share, because she was the one who ignored his warnings about the leak 2 years ago. Lisa might counter that since Kevin is the higher earner, he should absorb the cost as a gesture of goodwill. While they argue through their attorneys at $500 an hour, the buyer begins to get nervous. In 2026, with buyers having more options than in previous years, a delay in responding to a repair request is often interpreted as a sign of a difficult seller. If the buyer walks away, the house becomes stale inventory, and the next offer will likely be even lower. The professional agent mitigates this by utilizing a pre-negotiated repair threshold. Before the house even goes on the market, the agent works with the attorneys to have a court-ordered or stipulated agreement that any repair under a certain amount, say $5,000, will be automatically paid from the house proceeds at closing without further discussion. This removes the veto power from the emotional equation and keeps the transaction moving toward the finish line. The agent knows that the goal isn't to win the argument about the leak. The goal is to get the house sold before the market shifts or the legal fees consume the remaining equity. We must also look at the anthropology of the lowball offer. In 2026, some buyers will purposefully submit an offer that is 15% below market value, just to see if the conflict friction will force an acceptance. They are betting that the spouses are so tired of the process that they will take a financial hit just to be done with each other. The specialized agent handles this through deflection and data. They present a real-time market analysis to both spouses, showing that while the offer is low, the cost of holding the house for another 3 months, including mortgage, taxes, insurance, and legal fees, might actually exceed the 15% loss. However, if the data shows the offer is predatory, the agent uses their neutrality protocol to present a unified counteroffer that signals to the buyer that these sellers are not desperate, but disciplined. Step by step, the agent manages the closing logistics with the precision of a diplomatic mission. In 2026, we see a rise in virtual closings and mobile notaries to keep the parties physically separated. The agent ensures that the closing disclosure is delivered to each spouse independently. They watch for last-minute sabotage, such as one spouse refusing to sign the final papers unless a certain piece of furniture is returned. The agent often keeps a disputed item list and suggests that the disputed funds be held in an escrow holdback account, allowing the sale to close while the lawyers argue over the $500 lawnmower later. The potential outcomes of this phase are stark. A poorly managed divorce listing becomes a public spectacle that results in a fire sale price and a mountain of legal bills. A stealth-managed listing preserves the home as an asset, allowing both parties to exit with the maximum amount of capital to start their new lives. In Kevin and Lisa's case, the stealth approach in Raleigh resulted in a full-price offer from a buyer who never even knew the word divorce was on the table. But as the ink dries on the final closing papers, a new and final anthropological phenomenon emerges. This is the post-sale accounting, where the grief of the asset sets in. For many, the house was the last physical tether to the marriage. When that tether is cut, the emotional fallout can be more intense than the legal battle itself. And there is one final hurdle that almost no one sees coming: the identity transition of the real estate agent themselves. In this niche, the agent isn't just a salesperson. They are a witness to the end of a family unit. In the final part of our deep dive masterclass, we are going to look at the legacy of the divorce sale. We will explore the second home search for the lower earning spouse and how to rebuild a credit profile that has been scorched by a joint mortgage. We will also reveal the professional burnout of the divorce agent and the ethics of a career spent in the wreckage of other people's lives. We are closing the loop on the most difficult transaction in the world. What happens when the money is gone, the house is sold, and you are standing in a new empty apartment for the first time? The anthropology of the new beginning starts now. The silence that follows the final move out is perhaps the most profound moment in the entire anthropology of the divorce real estate transaction. For someone like Brenda in Chicago, standing in her new empty 2-bedroom apartment in June 2026, the absence of noise is deafening. For 15 years, her identity was anchored to a 4-bedroom colonial with a wraparound porch and a mortgage shared with a partner who is now a legal adversary. The house is sold, the equity has been distributed, and the furniture has been split with surgical precision. But as Brenda looks at her phone, she realizes the financial tether isn't entirely severed. She sees a notification from a credit monitoring service. Her score has dropped 30 points because of a trailing utility bill from the marital home that her ex-husband forgot to pay during the final week of possession. This is the beginning of the financial reconstruction phase, the often overlooked final chapter where the newly single individual must exorcise the ghosts of joint debt. In the 2026 economic landscape, the individual financial identity is a fragile thing. Historical trends show that for the first 24 months following a divorce, the outspouse, or the lower-earning spouse, often faces a significant credit shadow. Even if the family home sold for a record price, the history of that joint mortgage remains on their report. If there were any sabotage payments, missed or late installments during the litigation, those marks act as a barrier to future housing. Step by step, the professional divorce agent's job concludes by handing the client off to a specialized credit restoration team or a mortgage planner who understands the letter of explanation, LOE process. In 2026, underwriters for major U.S. lenders are trained to look for these LOEs. They need to see a court-certified copy of the divorce decree that proves the late payments were the responsibility of the other party. Without this forensic documentation, Brenda might be stuck in the rental market for years, unable to qualify for a new mortgage despite having $200,000 from her equity payout sitting in a high-yield savings account. We must also examine the anthropology of the reentry. This is the process of a person who has lived in a high-value asset for decades suddenly navigating the 2026 starter home market. It is a psychological shock. Imagine if Sam, who lived in a $1.5 million estate in the suburbs of Phoenix, is now shopping for a $500,000 condo. The displacement factor is a documented phenomenon where the divorced individual experiences a sense of social delisting. They are no longer part of the neighborhood tribe. They have been demoted in the domestic hierarchy. The specialized real estate agent handles this by focusing on lifestyle restoration. They don't just show Sam condos, they show him properties that offer a new identity, proximity to work, walkable social districts, or high-end security. The goal is to shift the narrative from what was lost to what is being gained in terms of individual autonomy. Data from 2025 and 2026 indicates that nearly 40% of divorced individuals in the United States regret the terms of their house sale within the first year. This regret usually stems from the post-sale accounting errors. When the house closes, the 1099-S form is issued by the title company to report the sale to the IRS. In high-conflict cases, if the agent did not ensure the title company split the reporting between two separate tax IDs, one spouse might end up being taxed on the entire gain while the other walks away clean. The professional agent prevents this by auditing the closing instructions 3 days before the signing. They ensure that the reportable gain is allocated according to the percentage of equity ownership outlined in the final decree. This level of depth is what prevents a surprise tax bill of $40,000 from arriving in April of 2027, just as the individual is starting to feel stable. Now let us turn the lens toward the professional themselves, the divorce real estate agent. In the anthropology of the industry, these practitioners occupy a space of vicarious trauma. In 2026, the burnout rate for agents specializing in divorce is 30% higher than for those in traditional residential sales. Why? Because the agent is a neutral witness to the collapse of a domestic institution. They are often subpoenaed to testify in court about the condition of the home or the cooperation of the parties. They spend their weekends mediating arguments about who gets to keep the smart home hub or the backyard play set. A character like Julian, a top-tier specialist in Los Angeles, manages this by treating his business like a diplomatic mission. He doesn't take sides and he doesn't engage in emotional venting. He utilizes a ticketing system for communication. All requests from the husband or wife must be submitted through a neutral portal where the other party can see them. This mechanical neutrality is the only way a professional can survive 10 years in this niche without losing their own sense of well-being. From an anthropological perspective, Julian is not a salesman. He is a transfer agent who moves assets across the most volatile border in human society. The one between two people who used to love each other but now only share a legal case number. The legacy of the divorce sale is a testament to the resilience of capital. Even when a marriage fails, the home, the primary vehicle of American wealth, often survives as the foundation for two new lives. The new life phase for Brenda in Chicago eventually leads to her buying a smaller, more manageable bungalow in 2027. She uses the equity bridge she built during the divorce sale to secure a non-contingent offer. She learns to manage her own single-income household finances, and her credit score slowly recovers as the joint debt falls off her report. The anthropology of the new beginning is about the transition from we to I on the title of a deed. As we conclude this deep dive masterclass, we have traveled from the closing table as a war zone to the empty apartment of a new start. We have broken down the tax traps, the legal hurdles of the partition action, the science of the neutral valuation, and the tactical warfare of the stealth listing. We have seen how a single signature on a 1099-S form or a missed utility bill can change a person's financial trajectory for a decade. The American dream is often described as a straight line of upward mobility, but for millions of people every year, that line is a circle that breaks and must be resoldered through the specialized expertise of the divorce real estate professional. The home is the most significant physical manifestation of the human social contract. When that contract is breached, the house becomes the final witness to the history of the family. The anthropology of this process teaches us that while walls can be sold and equity can be divided, the financial ghost of a marriage lingers until the very last debt is decoupled. You now have the roadmap to navigate the most complex financial and emotional transaction in the world. But the story of real estate and the human condition never truly ends, it merely changes form. In our next series, we will peel back the curtain on a different kind of high-stakes transition: the legacy build. What happens when the new beginning leads to massive wealth accumulation, and the divorced individual becomes the estate planner? We will dive into the anthropology of intergenerational wealth transfers and the post-divorce trust in the 2027 market. We will explore how to protect your new foundation from the same traps that claimed the old one. The masterclass on your financial future is only just beginning.